This is hands down the best open source AI video generator out there. And heck, it even beats most commercial models as well. It's called Hunyuan Video by Tencent, and all the samples I'm showing you right now are generated from this model. And that's exactly what I'm gonna review today. I'm going to test it on a series of very tricky prompts and compare it with other leading video models so you can see how good or how bad this is. Plus, I'm going to show you how to install this on your computer so you can run it for free for unlimited times. And yes, this is completely uncensored too. I know what you're thinking. Anyways, let's jump right in. First up, here are all the amazing things it can do. Of course, it can do text to video, so you just need to enter in a prompt and it would generate a clip for you. However, it is much more powerful than that. You can also do video to video, which I'll show you how to do today. So you can upload any video and then with a prompt, it will generate a new video based on the movements of your reference video. How insane is that? Here's another thing it can do. You can upload one image and then one reference video, and it would map the movements of the reference video onto your image, as you can see in this example. Notice how the expressions are very natural, and it does follow the expressions of the reference video very well. And not only can you use a talking face as your reference video, but you can also use a pose skeleton video. And then again, after uploading an image, it would make that image move according to the pose video. And even with this terracotta warrior, it can make him dance really smoothly. And yes, it works for anime as well. So you can see with one input image of this anime girl and then one pose video, it will make her dance according to the pose video. And notice the movements of her limbs and her body are super smooth. There are no artifacts that you might have seen with other AI animation tools. Here's another example where you can take an input image and a reference pose video and it would make this person dance. But we are not done yet. You can also upload an image and upload any audio of someone talking or singing, and it would animate that person. So here's an example. Notice how smooth and natural his movements are. It doesn't just make his face and his mouth move, but it also moves his entire body and the background. Here's another example. So note that it also animates the background like the waves in the ocean. And because she's standing at the seaside, it's also making her hair blow slightly in the wind. And of course, it's not just making her sing, but it's also moving her body slightly as she sings. So this entire video just looks super natural. Here's what I think is an even more impressive demonstration.
我都1年没吃苹果了，到超市偷了一袋苹果，大家觉得这要不道歉？你1年没吃苹果，你就能偷苹果啦？
So how insane is that? This looks so natural. This indeed looks like someone just giving a speech. The way his hands and body moves, the way his head kind of tilts as he talks, I would have a really hard time telling that this was AI. And we are not even done yet. So you can also get this to generate audio based on a video. So for example, if the prompt is birds chirp and tweet, and here's your input video, this is the sound that it would generate. And here, if this is your input video and the prompt is water is rushing down a stream and pouring, this is what you get. I mean, I don't know about you, but this sounds exactly like what the video looks like. Alright, so that's a quick overview of what it does. Let's actually jump in and test this out. So there are a few ways you can use this. If you have a decent GPU, you can actually run this on your computer for free for unlimited times, which I'll show you in a second. If you don't, you can also use an online platform like Replicate. So if you click on their GitHub page, which I will link to in the description below, they do have this playground page. However, this does require require that you have a Chinese number to register. So if you don't, then the other online way you can use is this replicate space. And this is renting an H100 GPU, so each generation costs around 70 cents to run. First, I'm going to test it on a series of very tricky prompts, and let's see if it can get this correct. I'm going to compare its generations with other state-of-the-art video models so you can see how good or bad this Hunyuan video is. The settings are pretty self-explanatory, so here is where you enter in a prompt, here is where you enter a negative prompt, so these are all the things you don't want to see in your video. And then this is the width and height of the video. Again, I'm just going to leave this at the default values. Here is the video length in frames, so the entire video will be 129 frames. And then steps, this is the number of inference steps. So in general, the more steps you have, the higher quality your video will be. If you set this to like 10 steps, then it's going to be really blurry and low resolution. However, if you set it to like 200, then it's going overboard and you're going to get diminishing returns. So again, I just tend to leave it at the default value of 50. And then there are also advanced options down here, such as flow shift and embedded guidance scale. Again, I just tend to leave it at the default values for the best quality. And that's pretty much it. So for the first prompt, I'm going to write an astronaut riding a unicorn in the desert. So this is a tricky prompt because it consists of multiple elements, and this is probably not something it has ever seen in its training data, if it was trained on real videos. So let's click run and see if it can actually generate this. So you can see this took around 7 minutes to generate, which is not bad given this is an open source free model. And indeed, we have an astronaut riding a unicorn in the desert. Note that there are some flaws when the unicorn's feet touch the ground. There are some inconsistencies there, but overall, still a very impressive generation. Now here's the same prompt using 3 other state-of-the-art video models. One of them is Mochi, which is, or was I should say, the best open source video model, at least before Hunyuan came out. And then the bottom 2 are from Minimax and Kling, which are currently the top commercial video models. And as you can see, this generation from Hunyuan is just as good, if not even better, than the best models out there. Alright, next, I'm going to type in an even trickier prompt. So the prompt is a group of Pomeranian puppies learning to become chefs. Again, this is very tricky because it's not just one puppy, but a group of puppies, plus it has to be Pomeranians, plus they are learning to become chefs, which is again something that it has probably never seen in its training data. For the negative prompt, I'm going to keep it empty, I'm going to leave all the settings the same, and click run. And this is what we get. This is actually super cute. These are indeed Pomeranian puppies, and, well, at least the one on the left, it's wearing a chef outfit. Now, they're not cooking or anything, so I would say it only partially followed the prompt. And here's the same prompt with the other 3 top models for your comparison. In this instance, I still do prefer Minimax and Kling's generation over Hunyuan. You can see the bottom 2 videos indeed show a group of puppies, and they are actively trying to cook or make stuff, and they are indeed learning to become chefs, whereas for Hunyuan's video, it's kind of only partially correct. Only the dog on the left has a chef outfit, but they're not really learning to cook or anything. But in terms of the quality, I would say Hunyuan's video looks super realistic and high quality. Next, we have your favorite prompt, Will Smith eating spaghetti. Let's see if it can generate this. Alright, and here's what we get, and here's why I actually used this prompt. So this is testing if the video model knows famous or well-known people like celebrities. And obviously you can see here, it does not know who is Will Smith. Maybe somewhere on the planet there is a white guy who is called Will Smith who looks like this, but this is clearly not the Will Smith that I was going for. And for your reference, here's the same prompt from the other top video models. So interestingly, the open source Mochi and Minimax were able to understand who is Will Smith and actually generate Will Smith eating spaghetti, whereas Kling also could not understand who is Will Smith and just generated this random Asian guy. Alright, here's my next prompt. time-lapse of the northern lights in the Arctic sky. This is tricky because this is not a regular video but a time-lapse video, so we should see the stars rotate slowly in the night sky, but it also has northern lights which should move at a much faster rate than the stars. Let's see if it can get this correct. Alright, and here's our generation. Interestingly, it has added some strange watermark in the bottom right corner. I think this is just an unfortunate flaw of generative AI. Sometimes you're going to get some weird artifacts like this, but if I generate another video, this watermark should be gone. Now, this does look like the northern lights, and indeed, the lights move at a much faster rate than the stars in the sky. So everything looks very good except for the watermark. And for your reference, here's the same prompt with the other 3 top video models, and you can see all of them can get this pretty well. If I saw this B-roll in the middle of a video, I would have no idea that it was AI generated. AI is now really good at generating these slow motion landscape videos. Alright, next here's a prompt that none of the video generators could get 100% correct. Let's see if Hunyuan can get this correct. So the prompt is, a princess wearing a beautiful glittery white dress running away from a massive dragon with glowing red eyes. Disney Pixar animation style. So first of all, I'm testing if it can generate this kind of 3D Disney Pixar style, plus the princess has to be running away from a massive dragon with glowing red eyes. So there are a lot of details in this prompt. Let's see if it can get this correct. Alright, so here's what we got. This does look Disney Pixar style, so I'll give it some points for that. She is wearing a beautiful glittery white dress, but she's not running away from the massive dragon. She's running towards the dragon. And then this doesn't really look like a dragon, but it does have glowing red eyes. So again, I'll give it some points for that. Now note that this is a very tricky prompt, and like I said, I haven't come across any video generator that can actually get this correct. So here's the same prompt using the other video models, and you can see none of them could get a princess actually running away from the dragon. Now, in terms of quality and actually following this Disney Pixar style, I would have to give it to Minimax. Minimax is just great at generating various styles, plus it does well with high action scenes like this. But even with Minimax, the princess is just running sideways. She's not running away from the dragon. Alright, next I want to test if it can generate text. So the prompt is the text "subscribe to my channel" made of vibrant, colorful smoke. Let's see what this gives us. Alright, so here's our generation. You can see the text is not great. It's just overlaying some text on a background of colorful, vibrant smoke. Plus, the text is clearly not correct. And again, this is quite a hard prompt. If you compare it with the other 3 video models, even some of the best ones out there, like Kling, could not get this correct. So if you want to generate legit looking text in your videos, at least for now, I would prefer Minimax. Alright, next let's test it on anime style. So the prompt is a girl wearing a kimono walking in the streets of Kyoto. Anime style. Let's see if it can pull this off. And here's what I got. This is indeed anime style. Now this is just one generation. I'm not sure why halfway in the scene it decided to cut to another scene of this girl. But that aside, this is indeed the anime style that I was going for. I guess another flaw to point out is she's not really walking, she's just standing there and talking. But if you compare it with the other 3 video models, you can see besides Kling, the other 2 aren't actually really good at generating anime style videos. So I'm actually really impressed by Hunyuan's generation here. Alright, here's my next tricky prompt. So the prompt is a woman who is very sad and distressed. Her eyes are red and teary. Her facial expression conveys sadness and emotional pain. Now, we know that most video generators can pretty accurately generate a regular portrait of someone, but this is really testing out if it can generate extreme expressions and emotions like this. So let's click run and see what that gives us. And here's our generation. This is actually very, very impressive. The woman indeed looks very sad, and her eyes are red and teary. Again, this looks like a scene straight from a movie, and if I just saw this without any context, I would not have guessed that this was AI generated. And for your reference, here's the same prompt with the other 3 video models. And you can see that for the 2 commercial models, Kling and Minimax, both of them are able to generate this really sad expression. Now you can see the open source model Machi at the top here couldn't really generate an extremely sad expression. But I would say I'm really impressed by Hunyuan's video. The quality of this is among the best. The quality of this is just as good, if not even better, than the commercial models. Alright, next, let's test it on an even trickier prompt. So this is really high action. The prompt is point of view shot of a soldier running through a war-torn city, rifle in hand. The camera moves quickly as explosions occur nearby, throwing up debris. The view dips and swings as the soldier takes cover and fires back at the enemies. Let's see if it can pull this off. Alright, and here's what we got. This is a point of view shot of a soldier. He is firing at enemies. I guess the view is kind of ducking and swinging. I mean, this is quite a high action scene. There are explosions happening everywhere, but because of this, there are some inconsistencies. The details aren't great. The soldiers in the background seem to just disappear and reappear somewhere else. So there are some noticeable flaws with this, but keep in mind this is quite a tricky prompt. And for your reference, here's the same prompt with the other 3 video models. Now, because this is such a messy and chaotic and high action scene, I don't expect any of the models to generate a really high quality video, but I must say I'm really impressed by Kling's generation. This not only follows the prompt exactly, but it's also very high quality and very consistent. But I would say Hunyuan's generation is actually not far off. Let me know in the comments which one you prefer. Alright, next one, another tricky high action scene. The prompt is a horror film, a swarm of zombies attacking people at a metro station. Shaky camera. This is complicated because we are not generating one zombie, but a swarm of zombies attacking people. So this is a really chaotic scene. Let's see if it can pull this off. Alright, and here's what we got. This is actually very consistent and high quality. Now, it doesn't look like there's a swarm of zombies attacking regular people. It just seems like the zombies are attacking each other. And of course, as the zombies move around, you are going to see inconsistencies with the hands and fingers, because this is, again, a very chaotic and high action scene. And none of the video models could actually get this 100% correct. But nevertheless, I mean, if you compare it with the other 3 video models, this one from Hunyuan is actually very impressive. And I would say I prefer Hunyuan's generation the most here. The one from Kling also looks pretty good, but there's a lot of inconsistencies, like sometimes the entire zombie would disappear or reappear from the scene. But anyways, let me know in the comments which one you prefer. Let me tell you about this awesome tool called ChatLLM by our sponsor Abacus AI. This allows you to use the best AI models out there all in one integrated platform. This includes the latest O1 Preview, O1 Mini, as well as other state-of-the-art models like GPT-4o and Claude Sonnet 3.5. Plus, they have a new Route LLM feature, which automatically picks the best LLM to use based on your prompt. They also have a Search LLM feature, which searches the web to find the latest and most accurate information for you. They also have a Humanize feature where you can set the tone to generate and it would make it sound more human and less AI. You can also generate images right from the chatbot, and they're using the best generator out there, Flux Pro. Plus, you can even generate videos with a single prompt. Plus, it has a really cool artifacts feature, so if you're coding or building something with it, it allows you to view and interact with the app side by side. And you can easily create documents such as PowerPoint presentations just by prompting it. You can also drag and drop PDFs and documents into here for it to analyze. This is great for generating reports and analyzing data easily. They also have a new feature called AI Engineer, which allows you to create your own custom chatbot fine-tuned on your own custom data or instructions. This is a really powerful way for you to use the best AI models out there all in one platform. Try it out via the link in the description below. Alright, next prompt, a young boy standing in a war-torn environment. His facial expression shows fear and despair. The background is filled with destruction, fire, and debris. Now this should be a relatively simple prompt. Let me click run and see what we get. Alright, here's our generation, and this looks perfect. This is indeed a young boy, and his expression does show fear and despair. He is standing in a war-torn environment with destruction, fire, and debris. This is a really beautiful and cinematic scene, and if I saw this in a movie, I would have no idea that it was AI generated. I mean, this looks flawless. And for your reference, here's the same prompt with the other top video models. And you can see all of them actually can generate this pretty well. I mean, this is quite a simple prompt. The boy's just standing there. This is not a high action scene with a lot of different characters in the scene. So I do expect most video generators to be able to ace a prompt like this. All right, next up, let's try an even trickier and higher action prompt. So the prompt is, a colossal sea monster rises from a stormy ocean, its massive tentacles wrapping onto a sinking ship. Let's click run and see what that gives us. All right, and here's our generation. I'm actually super impressed by this. This is indeed a colossal sea monster with massive tentacles. It's not actually wrapping the tentacles onto a sinking ship as I specified in the prompt, but I mean, this generation is still pretty impressive. And for your reference, here are the other 3 video models using the same prompt. And surprisingly, the open source Hunyuan is the one I prefer the most here. This looks super realistic and high action, and indeed the monster is wrapping its tentacles onto a sinking ship. Alright, here's another busy and high action scene which I want to test it out on. So the prompt is, a massive evil panda looming across the city, destroying buildings. Terrified people run away in all directions. High action. Let's click run and see what that gives us. Alright, here's what we get. Now this panda does look exactly like, the Kung Fu Panda character. So I think that gives you clues on its training data. But this indeed looks like a scene of a panda looming across the city and destroying buildings. And at the beginning, you do see terrified people running away in all directions. Now note that there are inconsistencies with the building and with the people, but this is a very tricky prompt, and this is already very impressive for an open source video model. And for your reference, here's the same prompt with the other 3 video models. And you can see that actually all 3 of them are really good, including the open source Mochi. I would say the best quality in this case is Kling, and in terms of the details of the buildings and the humans, it does seem like the generations from Kling and Minimax are more consistent. But let me know in the comments what you think. Alright, so that sums up my test on Hunyuan against the next best open source model, Hunyuan, and the 2 best commercial models, Kling and Minimax. Note that Hunyuan is actually not far off, and in some cases as good or even better than the best commercial models out there. So it's really awesome that they are open sourcing this. I mean, you can just install this and run it locally for free for unlimited times on your computer. In fact, that's what we're going to go over right now. Now, even though in the original GitHub repo by Tencent, it says that you need at least 60 gigabytes to generate a 720 by 1280p video, or 45 gigabytes of VRAM to generate a lower resolution video, and of course, most of us do not have a GPU with this much VRAM. The nice thing is, because this is open source, the awesome open source community has already built a version that can run on lower amounts of VRAM. So this amazing person, Kijai, has created this Comfy UI node which uses Hunyuan Video, and people have reported that it works on 12 gigabytes of VRAM, maybe even 8 gigabytes. So this is what we are going to install today. So let's get started. First of all, you do need to have Comfy UI installed. If you don't, see this video for a full tutorial on Comfy UI. So first, I'm going to run Comfy UI and actually update it to the latest version to make sure nothing breaks. Alright, so once you open up Comfy UI, it should look like this. Now let's click on Manager, and this does require you to have Manager installed. Again, if you don't have that installed, I highly recommend you watch this video first. Anyways, let's click on Manager and then click Update Comfy UI. Alright, after updating, you should see this message. Comfy UI has been successfully updated. So let's click Close, and then again, going back to Manager, we are going to select Custom Nodes Manager. And then over here, if you search for Hunyuan, you can see this one, this Hunyuan video wrapper by Kijai. So let's select this and then click Install. Alright, so after it has successfully installed, it does require a restart. So let's click Restart and then click OK. And if I open up my command prompt, you can see that after I restart, it's actually downloading and installing the required packages such as Accelerate and Diffusers and everything else. Alright, so after we have restarted Comfy UI, the next step is going back to this GitHub page. We need to install the transformer and VAE. So I'm going to click on this link, and then here we have two different transformers and two different VAEs. So depending on your VRAM, if you have low VRAM, I recommend this smaller safe tensors file, which is 13 gigabytes, and this is FP8. And then same with the VAE. If you have lower VRAM, then I would recommend this BF16 version. And if you're not familiar with these terms, BF16 or FP8 or FP32, this is basically the precision of the numbers as it goes through the calculations. So a higher value or a more precise model is going to, of course, take more VRAM, but it's going to be slightly better quality. So if you go with a lower version, then you're going to sacrifice a bit of quality, but it's really minimal. Anyways, I'm going to download this FP8 model by clicking on this, and then I will place this in my Comfy UI folder, and then Models, and then Diffusion Models. So let's save this in here. And then again for the VAE, I'm going to go with the smaller version. So I'm going to click on this, and then we are going to place this in Comfy UI, and then Models, and then the VAE folder. So let's click Save. Alright, so just to make sure you have everything installed, again, in your Comfy UI folder, if you click into Models, and then Diffusion Models, you should see the Hunyuan video model here. And then if you go back to the Models folder, and then double click on VAE, you should see the Hunyuan VAE over here. Now, the nice thing about Comfy UI is you can just drag and drop a workflow file onto your interface, and it would automatically pull up that workflow for you. So you don't need to build out all these nodes and noodles from scratch. So back in our Comfy UI folder, if we click on Custom Nodes, and then we double click on this Hunyuan video wrapper, you can see that there's an examples folder. And then here we have text to video as well as video to video. So I'm going to show you both. Let's try out the text to video example first. So I'm just going to drag and drop the JSON file into here. And then once we drop it into here, note that it has detected some missing nodes, which is this VHS video combine. So what we need to do is go to this manager again, and then click on Custom Nodes Manager. And then let's search for Video Helper Suite. So this will install that missing node. So let's click Install and wait for this to finish. And then after it has installed, note that it does require a restart. So let me click Restart and then click OK. Okay, so after restarting this, we no longer see an error here, and we can see that we now have this video combine node. And that's pretty much it. Now, there are a few more things we need to edit before we can get this to work. So, first of all, for this VAE loader, we need to click from this dropdown and select the VAE, which we just downloaded, and make sure the precision matches the value in this VAE name. So since this is BF16, this should also be BF16. And then also for the model loader, again, we need to click from this dropdown and select the Hunyuan model, which we just downloaded. And again, make sure the quantization matches the value in the name. So in our case, it's FP8, which is what we see here. And that's pretty much it. So here at the bottom is where you enter in a prompt. So because this is a fully uncensored model, let's try something spicier. So I'm going to write a beautiful woman wearing a white bikini dancing at the beach. Alright, so this prompt is going to be plugged in to this Hunyuan video sampler node, and this is where you set various settings. So this is the width and the height of the video. You could set this to 1080p, so that would be like 1920 by 1080 if you have enough VRAM, but I just have a mediocre 16GB VRAM. It's not going to be able to handle that. So I'm just going to leave it at the default of 512 by 320. And then this is the number of frames that your video will generate. Let's just leave it at 85 for now. And then this is the number of inference steps to generate your video. So in general, the more steps you have, the higher quality your video will be. But at a certain point, like if you set it to 200 steps, then you're going to get diminishing returns. And it's not really necessary to set the number of steps to such a high value. If you set it to too low of a value, for example, like 10 steps, then the video will be very blurry and low quality. So for me, let's just set it to 25. So it's going to sacrifice some quality, but it's going to be a bit faster to generate. And then this guidance scale is, I believe, how much your video should follow your prompt. And then this flow shift value is quite interesting. So some users have suggested to use a lower flow shift value, around 2 to 4, if you're working with smaller videos like this. So again, feel free to play around with it. I'm just going to set this to 5 and see if it's any better. And then this force offload value, leave it as true if you want to offload some memory in case you don't have enough VRAM. And then that's pretty much it. So let's click Q and see what it gives us. So now notice it's on this step, and if this is your first time running it, then it also needs to download these two files. So if I open up my command prompt, you can see that it has to download these files. Now this is only for the first time you run it. Afterwards it's going to be a lot faster. Alright, so it looks like I got an out of memory error. So I'll probably need to reduce this even further. For the number of frames, let me set this to just 50 for now. So after I enter in 50, it automatically sets it to 49 for some reason. And then I'm going to click Q again, and hopefully this time it won't be out of memory. Alright, so that was actually pretty quick. It only took around 2 to 3 minutes. Note that this is low resolution, plus the number of steps is only 25. So this is the output. The quality is not too detailed, but I mean, you can tweak these settings. You can generate it a few more times to get a better result. And by the way, this also automatically saves it in your output folder. So if you go back to your Comfy UI folder and then over here in output, you should also see your video here. Let me try one more. For the prompt, I'm going to write a panda eating bamboo. And then for the steps, let me bump it up to 30 and see if it is able to handle that with 16 gigabytes of VRAM. So I'm going to click Q and let's see what happens. Alright, so that wasn't too bad. That took around 5 minutes. And here's the result. So let me zoom out. This is actually really good. Look how realistic this is. Even at 512 by 320, this is a really realistic and detailed video. Alright, so that sums it up for text to video. Now let's try something even crazier. I'm going to show you video to video where you can upload a reference video and then enter in any prompt, and it would generate a new video based on the movements and composition of your reference video. So in order to do that, back in our Comfy UI folder, again in our custom nodes folder, and then in the Hunyuan video wrapper, you should see this examples folder, and here is where you see V2V, which stands for video to video. So again, we don't need to program any of this from scratch. All we need to do is drag and drop the workflow file into here. Now again, there are a few things we need to tweak before we can get this to work. First of all, for the VAE, again, we need to select from the dropdown and select the VAE that we downloaded and make sure the precision is the same as the value in the name, which in our case is BF16. And then same with the video model. Let's click on this and then select the Hunyuan video model that we just downloaded. And then again, let's make sure the quantization FP8 is the same as the value in the model name. And then over here is where you upload a video. Now, just for simplicity, I'm going to use the same video that Kijai tested out here. So on the GitHub page, it actually links to the source video, which is what we get over here. So let me download this, and then you can save the video wherever you want. I'm just going to save it in my Comfy UI folder, and let's name it test video. Okay, so back in our Comfy UI, this bottom left node is where you upload your reference video. So let's click on choose video to upload, and then let's select test video. And you should see your video down here. Now, if I run this with the default settings, I'll probably get an out of memory error, and then we're gonna need to tweak these settings, which I'll talk about in a second. But for now, let's actually just try to run this and see if it works. And then over here is where you enter in your prompt. So right now, the default prompt is high quality nature video of an excited brown bear running down a stream, masterpiece, best quality. Now, instead of bear, let's turn this into a rhino and see if it can generate that. And that's pretty much it. So all of this gets plugged into this Hunyuan video sampler. Again, here is where you can play around with settings like flow shift. Let me just set this to, 4 and see if it's any better. And then for the steps, let's set this to 20 just to make it run a bit faster. And those are all the main settings that you need to know to get this to run. Feel free to tweak the other values as well if you want. Anyways, let's click Q and see if this works. All right, so that got an out of memory error, which is expected. So let's try a few things to reduce the compute. First of all, yes, let's force the size to a custom width, and let's set the custom width to 512. I'm also going to set the width here to 512, and let's set this to 512 as well. This isn't actually making it a square video of 512 by 512 because we are keeping the proportion of the original video. So anyways, the width will be 512, and then the height would be based on the proportion of this video. And then for the frame load cap, this is basically how many frames of this video do you want to load. I think 101 frames is too much, so let's limit it to just like the first 21 frames and see if this works. I'm gonna click OK, and that's pretty much all we need to adjust to reduce the compute of this. Let's click Q and see if this works now. All right, and this one actually works. So this is what we get. Indeed, we have a rhino, and it's kind of based on the movement and the composition of this original car video. You can see the camera movements are kind of the same. And by the way, if you want it to align with the video further, you can change this denoise strength slider. So a higher value would mean that it would follow the video less. A lower value means it would follow the video more. So if I set this to like 0.5, for example, it should look more similar to the original video. So let me actually try that. I'm gonna click Q and see what that gives us. All right, and this is what we get. So now even the colors look more like the original video with this like desert background. However, note that if you make this value too low, then you're gonna get some artifacts. For example, this rhino doesn't look too accurate, and that's because it's trying to follow this original video too much. Anyways, that sums up how to use video to video. Again, it's super simple. All you need to do is drag and drop this workflow file onto here and then tweak some settings, and then you're good to go. That sums up my review and installation tutorial of Hunyuan Video. Note that there are still some features that are not released yet, such as this image to video model. Once they do release this, I think it's going to be another game changer. You can just use any image as the start frame of the video, and this gives you even more control. Anyways, let me know what you think of this, and how does this compare with the top open source and commercial models out there? Which one do you prefer so far? And also, if you run into any errors while installing this, also welcome to let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to help you troubleshoot as much as possible. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.